Find a corner here. You can stand on that low bench, it's in the shade, or here, part of it is in the shade, or on the window, wherever you want, just don't break. So what you're going to see is much more than old writings, and that's why I wanted to give you the background before you see it. Talking about the Greeks' time. The Greeks came here 332 before Christ. And as you know, the Greeks did not believe in one God. They had God and goddess. They desecrated the temple, and they forced the Jews to worship to stone and wood God and goddess. Many of the Jews thought that there is no other way. The Greeks were strong and they followed the Greeks. It was a movement of Hellenization in Jerusalem, following the Greeks. Small number of people could not stand this atmosphere in Jerusalem and decided to leave Jerusalem, escape to the desert, to a place called Qumran that we'll visit tomorrow. And over there they had to continue and live pure Jewish lives. So, first of all, they considered themselves the sons of light, and the people in Jerusalem the sons of darkness. So they wrote the ideology, what they believe in, that one day the sons of light will fight against sons of darkness. By the way, that's the reason that we have the black wall there, opposite the white dome with the water. Secondly, they wrote the Bible. They just had a scribe's room. They sat on a stone table with inkwells and copied the Torah. They also wrote a code of laws, how to live together in the desert. Over everything they wrote, they kept in kind of a library, and they lived there for roughly 200 years. In the 1st century AD, when the Roman army was on the way to Masada, they had to walk by Qumran. Imagine, one of the people in Qumran was on a watchtower, and I will show you the watchtower tomorrow, and he saw 10,000 Roman soldiers. He shouted hysterically, the Romans are coming, we have to escape. The scribes took the scrolls, put it in clay jars, and put it in a cave, and escaped. Probably they hoped to find it sometime, but no one came to that cave until 1947. And now we're coming to the second half of the story. A Bedouin shepherd thought that one of his goats is in a cave. He threw a stone to hear if the goat is there. Probably the goat will move, but he was astonished to hear a sound of jars breaking. He climbed there, and he was the first one to touch the scrolls after 1900 years. Now this Bedouin was not a scholar, but he was clever enough to understand that an antique dealer in Bethlehem will pay him something for what he found. So he sold it to an antique dealer called Kandu. By the way, his store still exists in Bethlehem. His children run it, and he was so happy, that Bedouin shepherd was so happy to get $30 for what he found. Wow. That antique dealer was also a good businessman, but he was not a scholar. He did not know the real value of the things, and in order to make more money, he understood as a good businessman that better not to sell it all to one person. He divided it. Sometimes he even cut the scroll in the center to sell it to different antique collectors that came to Bethlehem in 1947. Now, 4 pieces were bought by the head of the Syrian church in Jerusalem, Mr. Samuelus. I'll show you a picture of this person inside. And we even found a receipt. He paid that antique dealer $97.20.
Wow.
So that antique dealer did a good profit, bought it in $30 and sold only part of it in $97.20. Anyhow, a small piece of it fell into the hands of Lipa Sukenik. Lipa Sukenik is a famous archaeologist in Israel. Actually, his son excavated Masada, and he was the first scholar that realized that this is a treasure. He wanted to go to Bethlehem and ask the antique dealer what happened to the scrolls. But in the meantime, the War of Liberation, a border between Israel and Bethlehem, and he could not go there. For 6 years, it was a big mystery what happened to the scrolls. Until 1953. 1947 till 1953. What happened in 1953? You know, again, it's like a detective story. Someone saw an advertisement in a magazine in New York City. Scrolls from the 1st century for sale. Mr. Samuelos, the one that paid $97.20, wanted to sell it. By the time, during that 6 years, he understood that that's worth much more. So he wanted at least to double the money he made. So he calculated it, and he made probably mistakes with some zeros. And he asked for $250,000. By that time, the State of Israel already existed, and it was so important for the State of Israel to have it that they gave the money to Yigael Yadin, send him to United States to buy it. And it was brought here. In the early 60s, the shrine was built to keep the scrolls in. Now the story I told you is a story of part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. But Dead Sea Scrolls is the general name to scrolls that were found in the Dead Sea area. Some were found on top of Masada. I will show you the location tomorrow. Some were found in caves in Hever River, in other places. But if I want in one sentence to say, so what's so important about it? I can say that the oldest copy of the Torah that we knew about before this was found was from 1,000 years ago. And here we have a proof that 2,000 years ago, which is Jesus' time, they used the same Torah. You know that Jesus opened the book of Isaiah in the synagogue in Nazareth and read. The longest scroll that was found is the full book of Isaiah, 22 feet long. And it's in Hebrew, and you'll see it inside. I was curious, and I took my Hebrew Bible, I came here, and I compared. Word by word, it is the same. So no one can tell now, after this was found, that maybe Jesus read a different Isaiah book, or maybe he read it differently. It is the same. We have a proof. So I heard a lecture, you know, from expert number one to the Dead Sea Scrolls in Israel, and he said that people sometimes underestimate what they have here. He said that the importance of the Dead Sea Scrolls to archaeology is similar to the importance of electricity to mankind. We lived in darkness before this was found. We knew very little about way of life of people in the day in Qumran and so on. Here it shed a lot of light. So what we'll do as we enter, I will show you where you can see the story that I told you in pictures. And then you'll go into a corridor. In the corridor you don't have any scrolls, but other things that were found in Qumran. And tomorrow will be in Qumran. And then you'll come to a round hall, and over there you will see the scrolls. Now, not all the scrolls. Many of the scrolls are still in the Rockefeller Museum, and they make a research. They put here the most important ones.